Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I guess they wanted some short people here. I think so. Yeah, they're white right here. So, my name is Leroy D. Mack. My title that we have is Safe Money Expert. The reason why is I teach people about money, but I really want to teach people about mindset. Just like Ms. Thigpen was saying, you have to have a strategy. And if you don't have a plan, unfortunately, then you plan to fail. So you have to understand how things work. The other things that's talked about is fear. Fear stands for false expectations appearing real. What this means is most of your fears are not even real. And we're holding ourselves back because of fear. The things that I want to talk about is I want to talk about the state of America right now, how things are happening in America. Do you realize that 60% of people only have $10,000 saved for retirement? Do you realize that most of the plans that we actually have were never really designed for us? So I'm going to go into that. I'm going to talk a little bit about the state. I'm going to talk about some solutions because we already hear enough problems. So a problem without the solution doesn't make much sense. So again, my name is Leroy Mack. A little bit about my past is I used to work with DCFS wards. So I worked with gangbangers, drug dealers, the whole nine, abandoned, abused, neglected kids. We had a facility in Inglewood, in Chicago, and it was called St. John of God. And you had to fail 5 placements just to get into the program because it was designed for the worst of the worst, or the kids that were struggling the most. I absolutely 100% loved what I did when I worked with those kids, but I was getting tired of being fired. So Ms. Thigpen, you're in the school setting, and this young lady is also in the school setting, and you can imagine what the challenges are when you see something that's not right. You step up and you say something, and then you don't have a job. So I spent most of my time stepping up and not having a job. But in the social service field, you also know that you don't make any money. So I always had 2 full-time jobs. So I was 24/7, kids, solutions, being there, because it's very, very important. And God gave me a gift to kind of be there for kids and do things that kind of made sense. Like if, and I had all kids, white, black, Puerto Rican, it didn't matter. But if my kids wasn't doing what they were supposed to do in school, then they would see a 6'4", 280-pound man sitting in class. And kids were all like, who daddy is that? Of course, the kid that I was there, inspiring would never look up, I don't know. But the bottom line is, the reason why I'm saying that is sometimes we do simple things that can really change a person's life. Being there for kids, just showing up, going to school with them when they weren't doing what they were supposed to do, letting them know that they're important. These are the things that we need to do. And the only way we can change the world is actually showing up for each other. And we have to do that. And I know that might be a big statement that I want to change the world. But when you work with kids and you help at least one of them, you could possibly be changing the world. So I want all of you to recognize the power that you have to change the world. So let me dive into this finance thing. Let me disrupt your visions of how things work. So most of us have an IRA, 401k, show of hands, TSP, 403b, teachers, things like that. You guys have plans like that, right? Those plans was not designed for you. Those plans were designed for rich executives to hide money. So that's a very powerful statement. Let me back it up. If you were a farmer, would you want to pay taxes on your seed or your harvest? Seed. Right, Mr. Penn, you said seed. Why would we want to pay taxes on our seed? It's cheaper. The seed is smaller. But what has the government set us up to do? We don't pay taxes on our money until we retire. So here we are, 20, 30 years, sometimes even 40 years later, now that we have built a $100 account to maybe $300,000. But when do we pay taxes? At the end. So the government has made it mandatory for us to pay taxes on our harvest and not our seed. Here's the other problem. When was the last time we went to the store, threw everything in the basket, and didn't look at the price? Yesterday? Okay. But it's not a good practice, right? To just go in and be like, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. And then get to the cashier, and she says that would be $175, and all you have is $37 in the pocket. It's not a good plan. It's not a good look. But when you have a 401k, a 403b, a TSP, a deferred comp, an IRA, you have hidden fees that you don't know what you're paying for. So in essence, it's pretty much like you are just paying for something that you don't even know what the cost is. And most of us that's been investing, you remember what happened in 2008. So when 2008, also 2001, 2, and 3, for the first time in history, the S&P 500, which is the top 500 companies in the world, was down for 3 years consecutively. It was down 3 years in a row. So that was a very scary time for people. And along with that, we were still losing money. We lost money, but we also still had to pay the fee for losing the money. So can you imagine paying for something? So let me just step back right quick. When we lost money, did any of you guys get a phone call saying, I noticed that you lost money, let me help you? No, never got that phone call. So I'm not psychic, but if you did call, they said something like this: don't worry, ma'am, don't worry, sir, it's gonna come back. And that was their advice. And they got paid for absolutely nothing. And they got paid up front. So they made money up front because of the fees, and it continues to happen. So talking about the things that we don't know, our accounts that we have, the 403b, 401k, things to that nature, is going to be taxed forever. Were you aware of that? When I say tax forever, when you turn 70 and a half, it is now mandatory that you pay and you spend the money that you have been saving in your 401k or your 403b. It is mandatory that you spend a portion of this money when you turn 70 and a half. Now, if you touch your money before 59 and a half, you also lose a 30% penalty, 10% for early withdrawal, and then 20% in taxes. When you turn 70 and a half, the government is still telling you that you have to spend some of this money just for the sole purpose of what? Taxing you. So when I say this is not your plan, this is exactly what I mean. How can it be your plan when every time you go to touch the money that you need, you get penalized and you get taxed on it? That does not make sense, and that is not where we need to be. Here's another thing that we should know. For the people who are married, do you realize that if you actually pass away with an IRA or 401k, that money is going to be taxed twice? So, can you imagine everything that I'm building is going to be taxed twice? Let me help you understand why it's going to be taxed twice. First of all, you have not paid taxes on it, so it's a qualified plan, so they're going to tax your estate. Secondly, if you pass away, what they're going to do is when you have the money go over to your loved ones, what's going to happen is you're going to be taxed again because it's now ordinary income. So everything that you're building is going to be taken from you. In order for us to be successful, we also have to manage taxes. In my seminars that I do a little skit and I help people understand how receiving a tax return is a wealth transfer. And they was like, nah, I don't know about that, Mr. Mack, because I love getting money back from the government. But let me break this down. So if I go to K&G and I buy a suit, and my suit costs $201, and I gave the cashier $300, and she said, thank you, Mr. Mack. I'll mail you $99 back to you in a year. Would you accept that? No, you wouldn't. Well, guess what happens with a tax return? They have held your money for an entire year, no thank you note, no interest, nothing. And they send you the money, but it's your money already. So that is a wealth transfer. Another thing that we need to know about wealth transfers is if you have a W-2 job, not picking on anybody, not, of course we got to work, but if you have a W-2 job, that is a wealth transfer. What are you talking about, Mr. Mack? Well, how is it that Warren Buffett, the richest man in the world, pays less taxes than his secretary? Billionaires pay less taxes than their secretary. How is that possible? It's because we don't know the tax system and we don't know how to control it. Warren Buffett only pays 15% capital gains tax on billions and billions of dollars. The secretary that made $60,000 pays 30 to 40% in taxes. If we are a W-2 employee, we have no write-offs. No write-offs, other than our house, maybe. And what do we want to do, especially black people? Pay our house off first. And what happens when we pay our house off? We no longer have any write-offs. But if you had a small business, you write off everything. And it also helps you control. The other things that I want you to understand is that if the plan that I have is designed to penalize me if I touch my own money before 59 and a half, to make sure that I pay at 70 and a half, and if I don't, it's a 50% penalty, I can lose if the market crashes, and I also have fees, then what should I do for retirement? Young people, people who are working, and you have a retirement account, what I want you to know about and research is a vehicle called the IUL, Index Universal Life. And the reason why I'm talking about Index Universal Life is because it is a plan that you can earn a double-digit return, never lose money if the market crashes, have access to your money, and also never abide by the rules of the IRS. So there's no 59 and a half and there's no 70 and a half. And if the market goes up, you make money. If the market goes down, you don't lose a dime. Because it's not what you make, people. It is what you keep. The other thing, most of us have life insurance, correct? Show of hands of people who have life insurance. I'm going to ask you a question. I think we have one gentleman that knows a little bit about what I'm going to say. But sometimes the things that we have are outdated. Like, do any of you ladies still got a pager? You know, no. And the Kango? So the reason why we don't have pagers is because now we have smartphones, and the smartphone does everything. But let me ask you, we had people who had their hands up when it comes to life insurance. Let me ask you this very important question. If you have life insurance and you were diagnosed with cancer, stroke, heart attack, ALS, it's an incredible accident, and you did not die, will your life insurance pay you? So everybody that said no, your life insurance is outdated. Why should you have a benefit of life insurance, which is only one benefit, which is death? Does not make sense. It's not something that we need to do. We need something that's going to pay us while we're living. So if we had something to pay us while we're living, and this let me give you a quick story to help you understand the impact of what I'm saying. I have a radio show. I'm on 102.3 FM every Thursdays, and in the morning time, 6:20, ain't nobody up in the morning on Sunday, except the people getting ready to go to church or stuff like that. So they hear me. But I'm on 106, 102, 102.3, and 92.3 from about 6:15 to about 6:30. And the reason why I say that is somebody called me and said, hey, my friend, he's doing pretty well. I want you to call him and just check to see if he needed a review. So I called the gentleman. He was 28 years old, 3 daughters, young wife, sole breadwinner. He said, Mr. Mack, now I'm good. I got $1 million term policy. Didn't want to do the review. The things that I wanted him to have is, if he wanted to stay with $1 million policy, for him to have $1 million policy with living benefits. Because, like I said, it makes sense to get paid while you're living and not just have one benefit. So 6 months later, he was diagnosed with cancer, aggressive cancer, so he could not work. He watched his family suffer because he couldn't pay the bills. The term policy that he was paying for, he could no longer pay for it. If he would have had the review, if he would have got the information, he would have basically received a check for over $850,000 being diagnosed with cancer. So it's a lot better than a get well card. So can you imagine having $850,000 because you were diagnosed and you're going to beat cancer, but now I have money to not worry, because we all know that stress will kill you faster than most of the things. So if you're stressing about not paying the bills and being sick, that's a hard thing. The thing that I want you to remember is that you should have insurance that pays you if you become ill. It's there for you if you live too long, and it's there for you if you die too soon. Pays you if you live too long, die too soon, or become ill. And the type of insurance is called IUL. You might hear AC Green talking about that on the radio once in a while. AC Green is my client. And this is how we are trying to reach the world to give them the correct information of what they should actually have. So that's about my time. But I want you guys, I want everybody to be successful. And the way we are successful is to share information. Young people, one more tip. Teach your people to pay themselves the first hour of the day. Teach your people to pay themselves the first hour of the day. If you only make $10 an hour, do you realize that's $200 a month? Just paying yourself 1 hour per day. All right? Once again, it's not what you make,